Morning. Very good morning to you at nearly 12 minutes to 8 o'clock, and such an honor and a privilege to be connecting to somebody up in Gauteng, Pretoria. Rachel, maybe you should do the introductions.
Yes, so very excited to introduce Mpho. She is a part of Brave to Love, and it's really good just to have you with us this morning and chatting all things, a very serious topic, and that
Mm,
is human trafficking. So, good morning
yeah.
to you, Mpho.
Good
Thank you.
morning. Thank you guys so much for having me.
So, what is Brave to Love? What are you guys all about?
So Brave to Love, we are an NPO that is based here in South Africa. And so basically, we reach out, we rehabilitate, restore, and reintegrate victims and survivors of sex trafficking. And so we have a second phase home, and we have a variety of programs that are available for ladies who are currently stuck in the sex trade. Because we know from statistics that 79% of human trafficking victims are women and girls. And so that's primarily why we focus on sex trafficking.
Sure.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is, it's quite hectic because I mean, in the times that we live in right now, it's actually scary how easily somebody can get involved in human trafficking,
Mm.
can actually be trafficked. Maybe you can just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically, human trafficking, I think I'm just going to give a definition for some people who've never heard or about what human trafficking is. So it is basically when a person is taken by force or they are deceived or coerced into a situation where they will be exploited for profit. And so I think one of the most common forms that the traffickers use is when they would post fake job advertisements, right? On Facebook, on a variety of career websites. And when a person responds to that, they would offer usually an interview. Would you like to come to a certain place, to meet with us and everything, only for them to end up at that, to get to that place, to be drugged. In most cases, they will be drugged and then they will be taken to a completely different location. Yeah, and forced into, if we're talking about sex trafficking, forced into prostitution.
That is next level.
It
Yeah,
really is a big problem in our country, hey, Mpho. And with regard
yeah.
to that, just wanting to understand, what do we as citizens of our beautiful country need to do? How can we help solve this problem, stop this problem? What are some of the pieces of advice that you can give us this morning, please?
I think because when we look at human trafficking, we also look at the vulnerabilities, right? And so obviously anyone, realistically speaking, can become a victim, but there are certain vulnerabilities that factors that are evident in individual people's lives that can make them susceptible. So in the case of parents, we have seen that with children who are neglected, they are more susceptible to being trafficked. And so if a child is neglected, if the parents don't pay attention to what the child is doing on social media, who they're talking to, they could find themselves in a situation where they're actually being groomed, by a person maybe posing as a teenager or something, only to find that it's an adult on the other side of the line who's actually grooming them in order to sexually exploit them. And so I would say that for parents, be very vigilant about what your child is doing, who they're talking to on social media, and especially on gaming platforms as well, because I think that most parents don't pay attention to that. But on gaming platforms, who are they chatting to, as they're gaming, who's on the other side of the world or who's somewhere different. And if you're a young person, then please also be vigilant about the information that you're sharing on social media. Do not put your whole life on social media, because that makes it easier for you to become a target, because then traffickers can use that information to manipulate you. I think another thing I would also say, just invest in certain things like pepper sprays, in situations where people are using e-hailing services, at night, especially women, and they are trafficked or kidnapped. So I would say that invest in a lot of things like pepper sprays, and also share your live locations.
Mm. Yeah, that is quite something. If you've
Mm.
just tuned in to CCFM, we are chatting to Mpho from Brave to Love. It's all about human trafficking, and an
Mm.
amazing NGO that does amazing work, NPO, I should say. And Mpho, just in terms of people that might feel now a bit afraid and filled with
Hmm.
fear because of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
What other bits of advice would you give us? And you know, I know that, for example, on various platforms, there's been that thing of how you can give a hand sign to show that I'm actually a slave or I'm needing your
Mm.
help. You know, when a pizza delivery person comes to the door or things like that. Talk to us a bit about that as well, please.
Yeah, and I think that part of us wanting to raise awareness is not to instill fear in anyone, but I think we want people to be very aware that this is a reality and it's happening. Because I think that if people are aware that it's happening, it makes them less susceptible, and it will help them not become victims. So I would say that obviously, just what you mentioned, that's actually an interesting thing. People can actually educate themselves on what human trafficking is and how it looks like, especially in the South African context. You can head on over to our websites to find some resources that can educate you more about what human trafficking is and how you can be aware of the different signs of human trafficking. And yeah, I think following a lot of social media websites that teach about this and also sharing them, so that you stay in the loop and you know that, what methods a trafficker is using now, what do you need to be vigilant about?
Absolutely. Really appreciate all those tips that you've given us. And there's quite a lot. I mean, there's so many more questions
Yeah.
that we can ask you. Something I think that I just wanted to check with you before you have to love and leave us is that when it comes to human trafficking, how does
Mm.
somebody identify? Is there a specific, like any, like, red signs that you can see, okay, this is a
Yeah.
situation that I need to like run away from? Are there any of those
Mm.
cases?
Yeah, it's different. It's different depending on the situation. But I think with a person who's a victim, in most cases, you will see that they are malnourished. Most of them, there's a lot of control that the traffickers use. So you will see that most of them, if you try to talk to them, especially if we're talking in sex trafficking and ladies who are in prostitution, most of them, they sound rehearsed when they're giving you answers. So it's malnourishment, they sound rehearsed, and it seems that they're always looking over their shoulder because usually the pimp or the trafficker is just around the corner watching their every move. And so there is a human trafficking hotline that you can keep on speed dial if you're suspecting a situation where a person might be trafficked. So the number is 0800 222 777. And so you can report whatever it is, even if it's just a little bit. You're seeing a child and it doesn't seem that the person that they're walking with is their parent, or any kind of sus situation. You can be able to actually refer it to the human trafficking hotline.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Mpho, and for all the really, really helpful information this morning. We really appreciate it. I think people can go on to your website. It's www.bravetolove.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, guys.
It was awesome.
Thank you.